In a remote village, there was an abandoned hospital known to everyone as the Hospital of the Dead. The hospital had been closed for years following a mysterious incident in which all the patients and staff disappeared in a single night without any explanation. Since then, no one dared to approach it, and the lights would flicker on and off at night, as if the place was pulsing with life despite its abandonment. Yasmin, a girl who loved exploring mysterious places and documenting them with her camera, decided one night to visit the hospital. She was eager to uncover the mystery and find out if the frightening stories were true or just myths. Yasmin arrived at the hospital's front entrance at midnight. The doors were tightly shut, but one of the windows was broken, so she climbed through it. Inside the hospital, the atmosphere was unnaturally cold, and the air was thick with the smell of mold. The floors and walls were covered in dust and strange markings that looked like ancient writings. Yasmin began filming, and the room seemed untouched since the hospital's closure. As she walked through the main hallway, she heard the sound of footsteps behind her. She quickly turned around, but there was no one there. She assumed it was just an echo, but the feeling of unease began to creep over her. She decided to continue exploring the upper floor. When she reached the old operating room, she noticed something different. The metal table was clean and shiny, unlike the rest of the dirty hospital. As she was inspecting the room, her flashlight suddenly went out, and the room plunged into complete darkness. She tried to turn it back on, but the battery was dead, even though it had been new. Then, she began to hear whispers coming from the hallway. The words were incomprehensible, but they sounded as if they came from more than one person. The whispers grew more intense, and Yasmin felt the air become heavy, as if something unseen was approaching her. She tried to escape, but she felt something grab her shoulder. She turned to see a shadowy figure standing directly behind her, its face unclear, but its eyes glowing a terrifying red. Yasmin screamed and tried to run towards the exit, but the doors were locked shut. Suddenly, the lights began to flash on and off randomly, and the sounds grew louder, like the cries of tormented souls. Yasmin realized she wasn't alone in the hospital and that there were malevolent forces that didn't want her to leave. At that moment, she felt something pulling her forcefully towards a back room. She couldn't resist and was dragged inside, where the door slammed shut behind her. The room was filled with old photographs of people she didn't recognize, but they were all staring at her with eerie smiles. She realized that these were the lost souls and that she had now become a part of the Hospital of the Dead, trapped between life and death forever. Since that night, no one ever saw Yasmin again, and no other brave soul dared to enter the hospital. But the lights continued to flicker, as if signaling that the place was no longer entirely abandoned. Days passed, and the villagers began to wonder about the fate of Yasmin, who had never returned home, and no one could find her. Her family searched for her in all the places she used to visit, but it was in vain. While everyone suspected something bad had happened, some young men in the village started noticing strange occurrences around the abandoned hospital. Some claimed to hear a woman crying at night, while others said they saw a shadow resembling Yasmin's figure passing by the shattered windows before disappearing into the darkness. A few curious young men decided to take their chances and enter the hospital, hoping to find her or at least gather some clues about her disappearance.